Kyle Barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
Doing pretty well, Jared. Doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Doing okay. There's a temptation. There's a temptation to talk about the draft, but
yeah,
man, I feel like everyone either has done it or is doing it, and I don't know what. Hey, so-and-so got picked here. You already knew that. Here's some very shallow analysis on what that might mean. It just, whatever. Other people are going to do it. Go listen to them. We're going to do something not draft related, although congratulations to everyone who got drafted this weekend or last weekend.
And even got undrafted as well, because there was many Buckeye players who...
I know, I'm just trying to wrap my head around the phrase got undrafted.
all the Buckeye players
who got contracts, let's say. All the guys who got contracts.
There you go.
Buckeye Browns, baby. Yeah, a lot of former Buckeyes taking a pretty short trip up to Cleveland.
Yeah.
All right, but that is not what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking a little bit of recruiting. Since the last time, Kyle, we did a recruiting update. Since the last time, I think we did an update in between the last mock, but definitely since the last mock, there have been some changes. And since our last recruiting update, I know there's been 3 additions to the Buckeye squad. Jordan Lyle, who is a running back, which takes Ohio State up to 3 running backs, but we'll talk about that. And he takes them up to 3 running backs because of Sam Williams Dixon. I always want to say Sam Williams Dixon. Also a running back, also committed to the class. They might be seeing him as more of a hybrid running back, receiver, gadget sort of guy, which is why they're taking 3 running backs when I think most people, myself included, only had 2 running backs to Ohio State, but they might not see Sam Williams Dixon as a quote unquote true running back. And a tight end who originally hails from Canada in Max LeBlanc.
Yeah, a lot of players already committed for this 24 class. Ohio State is up to 13 commits already.
Yeah, the offense is really sort of we're getting close to like done on the offense, I would say.
Yes, I would think so too.
Defense still got some holes to fill on the defense, and while they're close to done on the offense, they are not done. But we'll talk about that. So Kyle, I think let's go ahead and talk about that. Quarterback, Aaron Noland, committed to the class. I don't know, Kyle, do you think there's any fear here? You have any concerns whatsoever? I mean, he's still pretty new commit. No real indication he's shopping around or anything like that.
No, I haven't heard anything at all. So I think he's a Buckeye through and through here. So I think you feel pretty confident that he's going to remain a Buckeye when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I no fear, not at this time anyway. You know, these are kids and things change, and you know we didn't have much. He's a second quarterback in this class, and we didn't have a whole lot of fear surrounding the first quarterback. So, and then all of a sudden there was. I'm sorry, my seat shrunk. I need to fix it real quick. Kyle, tell us. We already talked about Jordan Lyle. We already talked about Sam Williams Dixon. What do you think about Peoples?
Man, James Peoples, I really, really like. This is the kid out of San Antonio, Texas here. I think when Buckeye fans found out that they weren't going to get a certain running back from the state of Ohio, but then could turn around and find out, oh, well, actually we're getting a higher ranked running back coming in here too. So I think a lot of Buckeye fans were happy to hear that once he committed.
Yeah. So again, that is 3 running backs committed to this class. But Sam Williams-Dixon, maybe not a quote unquote true running back. Kyle, everyone's favorite position in regards to recruiting, wide receiver.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the tight end.
No, that's our favorite preseason meme. But no, wide receiver. Kyle, already 2 great ones in the class.
Yeah, Jeremiah Smith and Mylan Graham, and they're not done. I don't think they're done. I think you're going to see 2, maybe 2 more here when it's all said and done.
I think right now, a part of our mock that we've put together here, we have Jeremiah McClellan to join the class. Now I also have Josiah Trader a part of this class. It needs to be said, and I have him as a part of the wide receivers. It needs to be said he might be a corner. Josiah Trader is such a talented individual that you get him on campus first, and you worry about what position he plays later.
Yeah.
So when it comes to Josiah Trader, wide receiver, corner, wide receiver, I don't think anyone knows for sure yet. However, right now I have him listed as a wide receiver. Right now I have him as the 4th wide receiver in this class, rounding out the wide receiver position. Yeah,
and Jeremiah McClellan, I'm just pulling him up real quick here. Hey, don't let his numbers fool you here.
No.
It says, he's only the 30th best wide receiver. Why is Brian Hartline going after yada yada yada? Well, I don't think we need to really
question Brian Hartline.
Yes, question Brian Hartline's options to choose on who he would like to have come to Ohio State here. So if he thinks Jeremiah is going to be a great talent to come here, then full belief that Brian Hartline knows what he's getting into.
Worth noting, and I know he finished the recruiting class much higher than this, but since it is draft weekend, let's go ahead and pull this gem out of our pocket. When Jackson Smith-Njigba committed to Ohio State, he was the 59th wide receiver in the class. Now that was just maybe an issue of the recruiting services needing to catch up a bit, because he finished the recruiting class much higher, much higher. But it's sometimes the recruiting services are a little bit slow to catch up, and sometimes they just disagree, and all of that is fine.
Yep.
All right, Kyle, tight end position. Max LeBlanc, already talked about him. Kid originally from Canada. He's in the class. I'm thinking 2.
All right, yeah, Ohio State doesn't really typically get multiple tight ends. So who do you got as the second one?
Is that true?
I want to say so. I mean, if you really want me to look it up, I'll go and look it up here. But I think historically they really don't.
I'm not going to ask you to look it up, but I feel like they didn't last year, but they did the year before last, if I'm remembering correctly. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I do think they're going 2 tight ends in this class. I think this is a room that they're going to lose a ton of players out of here in after this next season. Did you see tight end recruiting get better when Keenan Bailey in charge? With Keenan Bailey in charge, yeah, I would say so. Yes, Keenan Bailey's an excellent recruiter. But yeah, the tight end room, I think there's going to be a lot, and I mean a lot of attrition in that room after this season, and even before this season potentially. So gonna have to maybe go get a guy. Or a couple guys. So yeah, Max LeBlanc in the class. Demarion Witten out of Cleveland Glenville. I will mark as the second guy. This is if Max LeBlanc is more your pass receiving tight end out of the class, Witten might be more your blocking tight end out of the class. But again, that Cleveland Glenville pipeline is back open and feeding.
Yes. Really looking forward to the future that school has to offer here.
Okay, almost done with the offense.
By the way, Jared, by the way, tight ends. Last time Ohio State had more than one. And actually, technically true, also more than two. Back in 2016.
Really? I could have sworn they've had a multi-tight end class.
Nope.
I think maybe because
2016 is when they had Hausman and Luke Farrell and a Kair Hawkins, 3 tight end class.
I think I want to say it was the 2021 class. I think they held 2 tight ends in the class for a while, and then one of them processed out, if you catch what I'm saying. So maybe that's why I'm confused. And also it might not have been 2021. It might have been 2020. I honestly don't remember, but okay. And by the way, you need to go back through your numbers and revise them and move Cade Stover over to tight end.
There you go. Yes.
Because it's not going to show like that in the recruiting profile.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, offensive line.
Time out. Was Cade Stover recruited as a linebacker, or was he just marked an athlete?
I think he was a linebacker, but I will look.
Gangland says linebacker. Let's just trust Gangland. Offensive line.
Man, it seems like, especially the past 10 years or so, maybe not quite that long, but it always seemed like Ohio State always seemed to, not always, but they seem to miss on getting offensive linemen into Ohio State, having like a really good offensive line class. Like they may get like one really good one or two.
There was a coaching change. There was a coaching change made because of that.
Yes, exactly. Yes, and I was getting there, Jared, but but not now with the coaching change here. Ohio State has a very strong offensive line class, and man, yeah, you're going to be hearing offensive line discussion a lot during the off season here, but it's really great to see that this class already has 4 offensive linemen already commits already.
Yeah, absolutely. All of them local-ish. What Ohio State has been struggling to do is to go get a big, impactful, out of state. Let me emphasize that part. Out of state offensive tackle. It's been a struggle as of late. And quite frankly, Kyle, what is Ohio State missing out of this class right now? Because you have Devontae Armstrong and Deontay Armstrong. One's your big offensive tackle, but they're from Ohio. So we're not breaking the out of state curse. It's been suggested Devontae, who played guard in high school, could play tackle at the next level. So, I mean, his twin can do it. Why can't he? Right. So yeah, get the Armstrongs out there. But again, we're still looking for maybe a big out of state offensive tackle. They add Mark Nave, interior guy, also in state. They also add Ian Moore, who's an interior guy, who's Indiana, which, as I've stated on this podcast before, and I'll say it again, Indiana's in state as far as I'm concerned. So what Ohio State really needs, and they still really need in this class, is an impactful offensive tackle from out of state. They need another, because again, Deontay Armstrong, tackle. Excellent. Cool. Devontae Armstrong, maybe a tackle. And then you have two interior guys. Like you need another tackle, not someone who maybe could play. You need to go get another tackle in this recruiting class. I have a bunch of guys who I think it could be. Right now I have Lambert, Gerby Lambert. That's who I have at the moment. I think there's some other names to keep an eye on. I think Brandon Baker, Jameson Riggs are two very possible names who could go here as well. But for right now, I'm going to go with Lambert. But yeah, they really, really need another like true offensive tackle in this recruiting class.
Yeah, agreed. And I really
Jordan
like
Lyle
Lambert.
equals speedster. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I like your thought about Lambert here. Yeah, I agree. Getting another stud here. You fill out this class with 5 offensive linemen, and then you call that a win here. Got a question from Zach here. Could we see 2 tight end sets to help out with blocking this year? Yeah, absolutely. Yes. And we saw that in the spring game, and we even saw that last year as well too. There was definitely a number of plays where you saw 2 tight end sets. You're going to see that. You're going to see that again.
And we're going to talk about it a little bit later in the podcast, but Ohio State has also reached out to the transfer portal for some assistance along the offensive line as well. But let's stay focused on this class for right now. We'll talk about transfers a little bit later on. Sad that our last year of Marv will be with a bad offensive line with no pass pro. Hey, don't throw in the towel yet. I swear to God, guys, this team's an offensive line away from a national championship. Again, if we can sort of maybe dip our toes back into the land of the NFL draft. I've seen early mocks, and early mocks are fucking worthless. I get it. I've seen early mocks that have as many as 8 Buckeyes in the first round. 8 Buckeyes off of this squad into the first round of the NFL draft next year. I've been telling you guys for years how special that recruiting class is. And it's not all of the juniors. It's not all 3-year guys, but it's a lot of those 3-year guys. Can't wait to fry it up. Hey, got to give Fry, you can't turn around a offensive line room in a year. You just can't. But they get some transfer portal help, and this is a good start to an offensive line class. It really is. Need to add a premium offensive tackle still, and I think they'll be good. And I think this will be exactly what you wanted. You're getting a big assist from Ohio high schools in this class, which, hey, maybe that's exactly, sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes you need a bit of a pick-me-up from in-state, and they got it. It's nice when you can get a pair of twins. Someone clip that out of context for me. But yeah, that's the offense. Again, like, not a lot of blanks to fill here. I'm only adding 4 players to the existing pair or set. Well, I think both are applicable. I think both words are applicable. A pair. Okay. And by the way, of those 4, Josiah Trader might be a corner. So it might be 3. All right, Kyle, let's move on to the defense. Where do you want to start on the defense?
Well, let's start with the only two commits for the defense here, and that's the linebackers, and that is
Totally
Garrett
different
Stover.
story on the defensive side, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's Garrett Stover and Peyton Pierce, both linebackers.
Yeah. So let's talk about the linebackers. You got Peyton Pierce. You got Garrett Stover. That's a familiar name. He's also being. I think he's still being listed as an athlete. On the recruiting services. I don't like whatever's happening in the chat right now. But is Garrett Stover still being listed as an athlete on 24/7, Kyle?
No, it says linebacker now.
Oh, does it say? Okay. I mean, okay, so it does say linebacker now. That's good. But yeah, I do see him as a linebacker. I think Ohio State adds potentially one more linebacker. They'll add one more linebacker if it is the correct linebacker. I think they will stay at 2 unless they get like the guy. You know, they're not gonna take a third linebacker to take a third linebacker. Now, luckily, Ohio State just made the final 3 for Kingston. Guys, work with me on this one. Everyone, work with me on this one. Kingston, Viamau, Asa. Listen, is that correct? Did I say that correctly? No. Did I get pretty close for a white kid from Ohio? I think so. I think it wasn't too bad. Always pronounce it wrong. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like that was a good effort. No, it's definitely what? Kingston. I said it right. There's a G in there. I said the first name right.
All right, moving on, Jared.
That last name, I don't know, but I nailed the first name. So yeah, our first addition to the defensive class will be Kingston. We'll just leave it at Kingston for the moment. Defensive tackle, man. These are my biggest toss it to the basket and maybe it goes in. I'm still pretty lost on where the defensive tackle room is at this point. I had Jaden Jackson in the last mock. I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to stick with Jaden Jackson. I moved Nigel Smith into the defensive tackle rotation. I think they would potentially take 3 here, but my God, this is going to be a big recruiting class anyway. I have this as I know I haven't said this every time, but next to every position I have like how many guys it could potentially be. And I have the mock total at 26 to 28, which is pretty big. But again, there's going to be a lot of attrition off of this football team next year or at the end of next season. They're going to lose a ton of guys. So you're probably going to take in a pretty big recruiting class. So yeah, I have Jaden Jackson, Nigel Smith in the defensive tackle recruiting class. Could be a third guy, but right now we're going to stick with those 2. Smashing indeed. You better be a mean MFer if you're named Nigel playing D-line. You're not wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I have a hard time figuring out who for this class as well, Jared, like who ultimately is going to be coming to Ohio State here. So
I'm lost at defensive tackle still. I'm doing my best. I could probably also throw out Aiden Breland or DK Kirk in there as well. I think are other 2 potential names to look out for. There are more. It doesn't even just stop there, but I think I'll stop there. That's 4 names for, I think, 2 spots on the roster or in not the roster, but the draft class. Defensive end, I have a better footing on, and I say a better footing because I feel like there's a lot of guys who they're in really great in really I lost that sentence halfway through.
Try again.
Yeah, I'll try again. We're gonna rewind. We're gonna cut all that out. We're gonna edit all that out. No, we're not. And I'm gonna try that sentence all over again. Defensive tackle, I feel a little lost. Defensive end almost feels more like an embarrassment of riches, because they're in good with a lot of good guys right now. I don't know how many defensive ends they can actually end up taking into this class. Again, this is going to be a really big class. The offense has already taken up a bunch of the spots. But for right now, I'm going to go with Darian Mayo and Marquise Lightfoot. Those are two guys I have in the class right now. I think there are other guys to look out for. Booker Pickett, Dylan Stewart, Elias Rudolph, I think are all guys who you could potentially see.
I really like Elias Rudolph in here. Kid in Florida, but it is currently playing in Taft High School right now.
I thought it was the other way around.
Is it the other way around? Maybe I got them mixed
He's
around.
originally from Taft, but he's now playing in Florida.
Yes, I see that now. Yeah.
Gangland in the chat. So how many guys total could we take? I'm marking it as 26 to 28. Again, also the recruiting class last year was several people smaller than they expected it to be. So small recruiting class last year, a lot of attrition, a lot of third-year players are going to leave after this year. So a lot of attrition. I'm marking my cap. I capped myself at 28. I removed a couple people who I think have a real decent shot at being in this class. I removed them because I capped myself at 28. Esquire says 30 feels like the absolute ceiling, right? 30 feels like a lot. But here's the thing. I'm not even going to tell you you're wrong. And if you want to say absolute ceiling, then yeah, I think 30 is probably a good number. If you want to set like a debt ceiling that we will never, ever hit. Right. I think 30 might be a good spot. 27 to 29, definitely a big class for us. Yeah. I don't think 29 is ridiculous. Honestly, 30 is not super ridiculous. It just feels super ridiculous to say because Ohio State doesn't typically go above like 25, 26. But yeah, small recruiting class, lots of attrition after this season. It could potentially be a very big recruiting class, which is one of the reasons why we haven't seen Ohio State come out this early with this many recruits. I mean, maybe at this point, but this has been a fast recruiting class by Ohio State standards to have this many players signed already. But yeah, anyway, it doesn't matter. I think, again, I capped myself at 28. That's just where I'm at. I capped myself at 28. I mentioned some of the other defensive ends who could be in this class as well. So yeah, I did that already. Linebackers, we already talked about linebackers. I just want to throw out real quick. Kawhi Birdsong, I think, is another guy. I said, they have their two. They only take a third if it's like the right guy. I said Kingston. I think Birdsong could also be like that right guy who they'd make room for.
Kind of like the defensive ends where there's a lot of great names that Ohio State is in good relationship with.
Yeah,
I think the same thing could be with the corners as well. I think there's a lot of great names out there that Ohio State's in really good shape to have them come to Ohio State here.
I agree.
And look no further
currently
than
0 in the class, which is not what you want. But as Kyle said, they have a lot of like great relationships right now, so I'm not really too worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, look no further than your hometown, Bryce West, Aaron Scott.
Gotta lock those two guys down.
Gotta lock them down. Yes, absolutely. And I think Ohio State is in really good shape for both of them as well too. I think if you look at all the crystal balls, Ohio State's sitting really well.
That Glenville, damn breaking news. Oh, something break.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Aw. Okay. Yeah, we'll add that to the Kyle's corner as well. So yeah, corners. I think again, lot of good relationships here. Bryce Scott, the Glenville pipeline. That's what we were talking about. C. Esquire. Two more names, Kyle. We're gonna say four corners. I think there's as you pointed out, a lot of good guys to pick from. Who's going to be your third guy?
I've been hearing Miles Lockhart.
Yeah.
I think is another name here.
Yeah. A guy who, by the way, for a long time was sort of being considered a running back, at least in some of the recruiting services. Corner. Especially if he wants to play at Ohio State, corner. He's a corner.
All right, and the fourth guy here, Jared, you have here Zabian Brown.
Yeah, I think they, again, good relationship there. Those are the four guys. Wes Scott, Lockhart, Brown. I think those are the four guys we have in the class right now.
I mean, that'd be fantastic. You get the...
Oh, yeah.
That'd be the 4th, 6th, and 7th corners in the country.
Yeah. Yeah, no. That's... And here's the thing. While it is optimistic, it's not like... It's not ridiculous. Like, I think it's totally achievable. I'm not saying it will happen. We're dealing with, 17, 16-year-olds. You'd be stupid if you said that... 17, 18-year-olds. You'd be stupid if you said, well, that absolutely is what's going to happen, because you just never know. But I think I think this is totally achievable. They also have a good relationship with Teron Nichols, who is amazing. Charles Lester, who's one of the best corners in the country. I had to limit myself to 4. I went with the 4 most realistic. I don't think it's over for Lester. I don't think it's over for some of the other guys I have on my spreadsheet here, or not a spreadsheet, but you all know what I mean. But it's those are the 4 I feel the best about.
Okay. All right, and the last ones here for the safeties, I have down here Reggie Powers and Jacob Good.
I don't look at me like I have the answer key. Gude. Jude? It might be Jude. Jude.
You're right. Jude.
I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat is smarter than us. Anyone? Anyway, I had no clue. Okay, that makes me feel better. I did remove, and I think 3 safeties are possible, and I did remove from the last couple mocks, KJ Bolden, who is an amazing player. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think Ohio State's out of it by any means. I'm not saying throw in the towel, that's over. He's not I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to put together a realistic recruiting class here. And I think Reggie Powers is an imminent possibility. Jacob Jude. We're going to go Jude. Jacob Jude, I think, is a very real possibility. And in a defense where something I see people say a lot. Well, they play 3 safeties now. Or do you only take 2 safeties? Well, it's because a lot of the times the cover safety is also a nickel back, and therefore most of the time is brought into the system as a corner. Most of the guys who are currently being tapped to play the cover safety position, the nickel safety position, are former corners. We're recruited as corners, so it's fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. Kyle, going down through this list, Who do you have as next? I give you one. I give you one. You have to pick one, but feel free maybe to throw in a couple flyers. But I do need you to pick just one.
One person who's going to be committing next.
Yeah, who's next? That's the question.
Jeez.
Question on the table. Who's next?
I mean, April's over, so it's hard to it's hard to choose. I mean, April was a great month for the Buckeyes.
As was March, especially at the end of March.
I don't know. I'd go with. I don't know. If you're really telling me a name here, I'll go with. I don't think he's going to, but I'll go with Aaron Scott.
Scott. I think Aaron Scott is a great pick. Because you said Aaron Scott, I'm going to say Bryce West. I think those are the two guys who I am keeping the closest eye on. What's going on with Scott? What do you mean what's going on with Scott?
We're predicting.
We're trying to predict who we think is going to commit next. If maybe you zoned out for a second. I know you said you were driving. Also, quit typing, please. But yeah, I think I probably would have gone Bryce West regardless. There are comments last week where he said he doesn't like people saying he is going to Ohio State. Also, at home. Well, I don't know. He's a child. I mean, he's a teenager. Like oh, you're at home. Oh, you're at home now. Wow. It took me way too long to figure that out. It's fine. Maybe he wanted to commit. Maybe he wanted it to be a surprise and everyone's already, it sucks. Like you're a teenager and you want to feel like you're making a decision and everyone's like, hey, he's going to Ohio State. Like maybe he wants a little bit of mystery. Maybe he wants his day. Maybe he wants to surprise everyone. Maybe he wants his recruiting event to be special and exciting. And everyone's just like, you're going to Ohio State. And that probably, if you're sitting there thinking, I don't specifically know what that means, gangland. So I'm just saying, like, maybe he's just like, sometimes you have to poison the well a little bit and get everyone to think you're doing one thing so you can do the other thing. So your recruiting can be a little more, cause they spoiled the commitment. Yeah. But like commitments get spoiled. Like crystal balls have been a thing for a long time now. And some kid gets like 2 crystal balls from the quote unquote right guys. And Kyle and I are as guilty of it as anyone else. We just start like writing them into the recruiting class before they even get a say in it. And that's the thing. Kyle and I are just a pair of idiots. We have no insider knowledge on anything. I don't think they give a shit what Kyle and I have to say regardless. We're putting together a mock here. We're open about the fact that we're guessing. Even if it's educated guessing, it's still just guessing. But yeah, I have to imagine, well, when Wilfong says something is coming, says it's coming from the horse's mouth. Oh, well, yeah. Well, when Wilfong says something, it's coming from the horse's mouth. I mean, yeah, that's the problem. This is like put yourself in the shoes, in the seat of a teenager. This is like maybe the first big decision you've ever made in your life. And when everyone is just penciling you into a school and you haven't made a choice yet, you feel like your choice is being taken from you. Is it actually being taken from you? No. But could it absolutely feel that way? Yes. That would probably piss me off. Me at that age, as defiant enough, as independent enough, that everyone telling me where I was going to go, even if they were right, would probably piss me off. So if a kid gets on Twitter, he's like, I'm fucking sick of everyone saying I'm going. I don't know why. They probably didn't curse. I cursed. It's fine. I'm sick and tired of everyone saying I'm going to Ohio State. Yeah, I probably would be too, even if I was definitely going. Again, don't think about it as someone in their mid-30s with the mind and the emotions of someone in their mid-30s. Be real honest with yourself about what you were like when you were 17. The first big decision you get to make, and everyone's telling you what your decision's going to be. It would piss me off. It would piss me off. Also, can I still say mid-30s? Can I still say mid? Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant. We can't do a show without me going off into some rant.
Of course.
That's all.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean that's my point. So what? 17-year-old gets mad and says something on Twitter. He's 17. What do you want? But yeah, Kyle's going Aaron Scott. I'm going Bryce West. I think those two are somewhat imminent, although maybe Aaron Scott needs to draw things out a little bit more, just so he can have ownership over his own decision, which is fair. Rant. Yeah. I think people like my rants for the most part. But yeah, let him have control over his own decisions. All right. That's everyone. Kyle and I gave our prediction on who's next. Some guys who were just outside of the mock. These are sort of the next group of names. Just going to toss these out there without much fanfare or whatever. Wide receiver Terrence Moore, offensive tackle Brandon Baker, offensive tackle Jamison Riggs, defensive tackle Aiden Breland, defensive tackle DK Kirk, defensive end Elias Rudolph, defensive end Dylan Stewart, edge rusher Booker Pickett, linebacker Quai Birdsong, cornerback Teron Nichols, safety KJ Bolden. I think that's a real solid, like, just outside the mock tier. And I have even more names on the list for a watch list. And if you're in if you're in the Discord, I'll tell you who's in the watch list. How about that? I'm gonna go stick it in one of the secret channels right now. Doing it right now. Going to the secret channel, paste, go. And if you can probably pause it real quick if you're watching the YouTube video and see who it was, because it was on the screen real quick. Anyway, which one is built to be a nickel? I don't have either of those guys as a nickel. I see both of those guys as outside corners personally. I don't necessarily have a good feel on who is the slot corner among the group, and that's maybe not a thing you figure out until they, actually get on campus, actually get on the field, get them in pads, and so on and so forth. It's not a thing you necessarily know at this stage. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you look at a guy and you're like, that's a slot corner, but sometimes you don't. All right. Kyle, I think that's it. I think that's the show. We got
a couple of transfers that coming into Ohio State.
Well, I thought we were going to do that in Kyle's corner.
Sure.
You know what? Fine. Let's just talk about it. We maybe have a different thing to do in Kyle's corner. So yeah, let's just talk about the transfers. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening right now for this upcoming squad, this upcoming team. We said Ohio State needs some offensive tackle, or at least some offensive line assistance. Got a little bit of assistance this weekend. That was me kicking it over to you.
Okay. I couldn't tell with your tone. It sounded like you're going to continue on.
No. That was me teeing it up for you.
Okay. You're talking about Josh Simons, the lineman out of, or transferring from San Diego State, the Aztecs, was the 25th best interior lineman in the 2021 class. Like Jared said, it's a much needed depth in here. I don't think it's the answer Ohio State's looking for to plug in play right away.
It needs to be stated that despite the fact that his recruiting profile said interior, he did play tackle. He did play tackle at San Diego State. What Ohio State really, really needs to become what, in my opinion, to get this team to its full potential, what Ohio State really, really needs is a true left tackle. I don't think there's a true left tackle who is ready. I think there might be some young guys who might be true left tackles, but on the squad right now, not down the road potential right now, I don't think there's a true left tackle on this team. And while I 100% welcome the addition of, is it Simmons, right? 100% welcome him onto the team. I don't think he's like that left tackle. I don't think he is like, and of course, like that's a wish list thing, right? Like how many like true left tackles are even in the portal right now? True at Ohio State's level left tackles are even available. Are there any in the portal right now? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Who do we switch then? I am still of the opinion, and I know there are other people who disagree with me. I'm still of the opinion that Donovan Jackson is still a possibility for left tackle. And if you see Josh Simmons as a guard, it's entirely possible that Simmons becomes the left guard, opening up the possibility for Donovan Jackson to move out the left tackle. Is that what they're thinking? I don't know. Like, I just honestly don't know. Can you do a mock offensive line with current transfers included? Oh, just like who's the mock right now? Kyle, was there a Ask Sloopcast question along those lines? Didn't someone ask that question in Ask Sloopcast?
Let me look here real quick. So that is the shenanigans section. Don't want the shenanigans today.
No shenanigans today.
With Simmons transferred to the Buckeye land, how will the offensive line shuffle come out? Yeah.
Who asked it?
Zach.
Thank you, Zach.
Did.
I think there's a couple of ways this plays out. You bring in Simmons to play. Period. I do not believe Josh Simmons is a depth piece by any means. You're bringing in Josh Simmons to play. I think he starts. What I don't know is where. If you're telling me right now he's going to be the left tackle and they're going to bump Fryer over to right tackle, I would be hesitant, but I also wouldn't tell you you're crazy. If you told me that they were going to keep Fryer at left tackle and put Simmons at right tackle, I'd listen. I think that might be the most realistic possibility. If you're telling me they're going to take Fryer, bump him over to right tackle, bump Jackson out to left tackle, and put Simmons in at left guard, I feel like that's also a strong possibility. I'm not sure that Day and Fry know. They might be having or might have had this same conversation and might have this conversation and the exact conversation you're having right now sometime in the future. They're probably asking the same questions, but they're going to have to figure it out quickly. because you're going to need to get that offensive line as like a cohesive group. Whatever that group is, you need to get them practicing together. I don't know if they know, but I think that having Josh Simmons gives you a it opens up some possibilities. And I also am hopeful that this is not, I don't know, maybe there's another offensive lineman yet to come. We'll see.
Yep. And I think there's one more player that Ohio State's looking at now.
We didn't talk about Zoe yet, did we?
No, nope. Lorenzo Styles.
Yeah. The older brother.
The older brother coming back to the state of Ohio.
Yeah. Was playing wide receiver for Notre Dame the past couple years. Lorenzo Styles, probably a safety at Ohio State. I know he's being discussed as a defensive back. Ohio State recruited him as a defensive back. One of the reasons why he went to Notre Dame is because Notre Dame wanted him to play wide receiver. He's coming back to Ohio State. If anyone forgets, he and his brother are both from Pickerington, which is an eastern suburb of Columbus. He's coming back to Ohio State. He's going to play some defensive back. I assume safety. 6'1", 185, feels like a cover safety. Feels like the nickel slot safety, in my opinion, but that's just me taking a guess at the moment. Mm-hmm. Simmons was the Aztecs' best lineman and had 3+ years to play 6'6", 305. Hopefully he's absolutely nasty. Yeah. And when it comes to Simmons, I think this is both an emergency plug and also a down the road investment. And I think Simmons will get better. I think Simmons' worst year at Ohio State will be this year. And hopefully that's a good thing and not a bad thing, because the talent on this team right now that won't be on this team a year from now will be insane. There's an insane, Ohio State always has talent. Ohio State always has talent, but my God, the talent currently on this team is insane. They almost beat Georgia last year. And did you see how many of them got drafted? Did you see how many Georgia players got drafted this weekend? More than can start.
10. I think it was 10.
No, for the entire draft?
Yeah, I think so. It was like 10 or 11.
I thought it was more than that, because I was saying more that can play, so I was going for 12. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, let's look. I am looking right now, and it is 10.
It was 10.
It was 10, yes.
I thought the most a team had was 9. Apparently it was 10. Could have sworn it was 13, but whatever. It doesn't matter. An amazingly talented Georgia. That team was so good. That team was so good that they actually got that piece of shit geriatric quarterback drafted by the Rams. How did that happen? I don't know. The talent on this team right now is psychotic. And a lot of this talent won't be here next year.
Yep. All right. Anything else, Jared? Anything else you want to mention before we
Tywin
wrap it up?
Malone, who's a name, if you follow Ohio State recruiting, might be a name you know. Ohio State, I think, is in search of a defensive tackle, specifically, I would say a nose tackle to add to the rotation. I think they have 2 guys who they love at the 3-tech defensive tackle. And I think they probably have one guy who they love at the nose tackle. To add a nose tackle is I know another thing that they were looking to do for the transfer portal. They got their defensive back. They wanted another defensive back. They got Styles. They wanted an offensive lineman. They got Simmons. I still think that they're in desperate need of an offensive tackle, but again, the guy actually has to be in the portal to get. And then you go get, I don't want to say 4th defensive tackle because I don't think that's a fair way to say it. But your 2nd, or maybe even like your 1B nose tackle. Yeah, your 2nd. My call is a potential 1st rounder next year. Talk about talented guys who won't be on the team. My call potential 1st rounder next year. Yeah, you get yourself a 2nd nose tackle. You would be the 2nd nose tackle, but he's still going to get a ton of rotation with Tywin Malone. And again, this is someone Ohio State had a great relationship with during the recruiting process, and he's out in the portal and could be coming back to Ohio State. Cal, you have defensive end written in the notes. They have him listed as a D end, or was that just
on
a mistype?
on 24/7? I believe they did, but you're right. He is actually a defensive tackle, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there another portal deadline this summer? No. I do. There are 2 portal deadlines. I forget. I think it's like 45. I think there's like a 45-day opening. I want to say 45 from like the moment the bowls are announced plus 45 days is the first portal opening. And then there's the 2nd portal opening, which is April 15th to April 30th.
Yes, you are right. Yep.
This last one was originally in May. Yes. The one that's going to close tonight for us, yesterday for everyone listening to this, used to run May 1st to May 15th. They moved it up 2 weeks.
Yeah, but there are exceptions to this too.
There's always exceptions. There's always loopholes.
But the biggest one is if you have your undergraduate degree, if you've completed your undergraduate, you have a free transfer at any time.
Correct. The graduate transfer rule is still in place. The portal did not stop that from happening. And also just something else to throw out there. Again, Kyle and I don't necessarily know how the portal ends as far, because the portal is still open in our future. Or in our present, also in our future, I guess. Needs to be stated. 1, the portal is not public access. The media, fans, we can't see the portal. Now, a whole lot of people at a whole lot of universities can. So that stuff does get leaked to the portal pretty quickly. So that's number 1 thing to keep in mind. Number 2 thing to keep in mind. See this animate? Okay. Number 2 thing to keep in mind is that it is the deadline to submit to the portal to get the paperwork into compliance. It is entirely possible that someone has submitted their paperwork to the compliance, and then there is a 48-hour deadline for compliance to actually enter the player into the portal. It is entirely possible that Sunday night, Saturday, Sunday, players have entered themselves into the portal via the compliance department, and that we simply have not seen them either publicly announce it, and also they're just not actually in the online portal yet. So just because I guess this is a long way of saying, just because a player hasn't gone on Twitter or Instagram and said by Sunday night, hey everyone, I'm in the portal, doesn't mean they aren't or that they won't be. We might see guys announce their entrance into the portal Monday and Tuesday, because I don't know how many people need to hear this. You don't submit yourself into the transfer portal by posting on Twitter. The deadline is not when you put the post on Twitter. Tossing that out there.
Austin.
Jared, what happens when Ohio State is over the limit, but the guys never entered the portal? Ohio State's not over the limit because the deadline's not here. When the deadline hits, Ohio State will be 85 or below. You can bet your entire bank account on that. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah. All right, we do have to wrap things up here, Jared. Though, so I'll kind of go into Kyle's corner here. Some sad news here. The voice of the Buckeyes here, Bob Kennedy, passed away on Sunday. He was scheduled to do the PA for the baseball game today and did not show up. And then the athletic department came out to do a wellness check, and
you don't have to finish that sentence. You don't have to finish that sentence.
So, but yeah, it's sad to hear him, because I've always known him for, like, I can still hear his hear his voice still in my head still. So
100%.
Having him not do the PAs anymore, it's just going to be so different moving forward, though. But definitely saddened to hear that.
For sure. Woody67 says Simmons was a 4-star interior offensive lineman recruited by UCLA. In other words, Coach Fry.
Yes.
So maybe your theory on him playing a guard isn't far off. I mean, I don't have a theory. I have questions. to be real with you, I don't have a theory. I have questions. I think he's a great addition to the offensive line. I am happy to have him, but if Ohio State wants to win a national title, they need someone stellar at offensive tackle, and I don't know that that's a thing that's going to happen. So they're going to have to figure that out one way or the other. I know everyone's like, we'll play 2 tight ends. By playing 2 tight ends, you're taking Emeka Egbuka off the field.
Yes.
Do you want to take Emeka Egbuka off the field? I don't want to take Emeka Egbuka off the field. Squirrel. Yeah. I was talking to the chat. Kyle, I was talking to chat.
All right, but that's it, Jared. That's all I got.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the show. I'm just gonna go ahead and end it. You can go to thesloopcast.com and you can find links to all of our things there. That's all the plug I feel like doing. I do want to thank Woody67, who's been in the chat here, who is our latest patron. I did make a call to hopefully get some new patrons, and Woody stepped up to the plate. Who's next? We asked who's next for the recruits. Who's next to join the Patreon and become a Sloop Cat? Woody answered the call. Will you answer the call? All right. Tonight's ending music will be brought to you. They are a band. They out of Cincinnati. I forget. They're called Minigang. So it's one word, Minigang, Minigang. I don't know what that means, Zach. So, brought to you by Minigang, ending today's show. So, with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is Minigang.